Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright y'all, in this video I want to talk about what a final form Boruto and Kawaki could potentially look like, and I did want to talk about a possibility of Himawari actually being stronger than both Boruto and Kawaki by the end of Boruto TVV. But first things first, of course we're going to start with the main character Boruto. I think Boruto is going to be like one of the more controversial ones. I think that his upgrades could be like a little bit less predictable than Kawaki. One of the things that we do know as of right now is that Boruto has already been upgraded by Kashin Koji. Kashin Koji pretty much gave Boruto all the future abilities that Boruto did actually have. Boruto definitely is inevitably going to get stronger, even though he knows all of his future moves already. I think the Jogan and Karma Seal is going to be two of the basic things I think that everybody here knows. We've seen that in the first episode of Boruto Part 1 when he fought against Kawaki. So I think those two are probably going to be some of the biggest upgrades that Boruto is likely going to get. One of the things that Tony did actually say in Part 1 is that the Jogan is going to be the star of hope. So of course you already know that that right there is likely going to be something very important to the actual plot of Boruto. Now not only that, one of the other things that I think that Boruto could possibly get, I mean, it's the Rinnegan. When we did see Momoshiki in his base form and in his fused form with Kinshiki Otsutsuki, he had Rinnegans in both forms. So because of that, I wouldn't necessarily put it past a final form Boruto with the Karma Seal horn form and everything like that, potentially with a Rinnegan. And I think that right there would actually give Boruto the same abilities that Momoshiki did have. If you guys did recall, one of the things that Momoshiki loved to spam when he did actually invade the Hidden Leaf Village, he liked to absorb chakra and then multiply it. So he'd pretty much absorb like a tail beast bomb and then multiply it to some ridiculous amount. So I think that that would be like an amazing ability that Boruto could potentially get from a Rinnegan popping up. Now Momoshiki in itself is going to be a very good conversation when it comes to the upgrades of Boruto. There is that theory that Boruto and Momoshiki are going to eventually become friends and form the new Karma duo. I honestly don't even think that's a bad idea, and to be honest, I think that could be what potentially takes Boruto over the top. In my personal opinion, I think it's going to be inevitable that Boruto utilizes the Karma Seal again. Now, of course, we already seen it, but hey, there is a possibility that they change the first scene. You never know. But I definitely do believe that he utilizes it again. And not only that, I think that the first time he uses it, it's going to be significantly weaker than if Momoshiki and Boruto actually do collaborate on a battle or on a new transformation or something like that. I think that if Boruto and Momoshiki work in combination during their battles to potentially stay alive, because of course Momoshiki is Boruto and Boruto is Momoshiki. If Boruto does die, Momoshiki dies. I think that in itself could be the strongest form that Boruto does achieve, because he would have all the battle experiences of Momoshiki Otsutsuki. He'd have all the future abilities that he and Momoshiki could potentially come up with instantly because of Kashin Koji. And not only that, they also have an insane amount of chakra reserves because of the chakra absorption that he'd potentially get from the Rinnegan. So there's like a lot of things that could be gained from a Boruto Momoshiki collab, and I ain't gonna lie, I'd kind of be disappointed if it didn't actually happen. The next character of course is going to be Kawaki, and I think Kawaki, as I said, it could be a lot more predictable than Boruto. What we could see with Kawaki is he could just be like an Ishiki regen. Like he could just be a stronger version of Ishiki Otsutsuki, and don't get me wrong, that wouldn't necessarily be a terrible thing because Ishiki Otsutsuki personally was my actual favorite Otsutsuki member. However, I do believe that Kawaki has a lot more potential than Ishiki Otsutsuki. Now of course we already heard in the last chapter that he's going to be getting his limiters removed, or that he has limiters. However, 9 times out of 8, Kawaki is likely going to seek out Kashin Koji for some extra training, even if he does get those offensive limiters removed. So in my personal opinion, Kawaki, as we stand right now, is probably looking at 2 more like power-ups offensively at least. The reason why I think that Kawaki can be a little bit more interesting, he has the ability to unlock divine arts. I think his body's a lot more accepting of like a Shibai cell. If you guys do recall, Kawaki's body originally was supposed to host Ishiki Otsutsuki, who of course had multiple different divine arts that he needed to utilize if he did actually revive into Kawaki's body. So I think in the future, if let's say Kawaki wants to inject some Shibai Otsutsuki cells and gain some divine arts and gain some more hacks jutsus in the future, we already seen some hacks jutsus in the form of the future sight with Kashin Koji, the omnipotence with Ada, and of course the claw grimes with Code. But if hypothetically Kawaki wants to do something like that and inject some Shibai cells, his body would likely be the most like accepted and gain a divine art. And to be honest, when it comes to how Kawaki wants to get stronger, we've seen that already. Like he isn't necessarily the most shinobi guy. Like he doesn't necessarily want to sit there and train too much. So if he does have the ability to essentially go to Shibai Otsutsuki, inject some cells, and potentially gain another divine art or a divine art or two, potentially even gain both Kashin Koji and Ada's ability, the future sight and the past sight, I think that right there could be a realistic future for Kawaki. Now in terms of how far they're both going to get in regards to like their Otsutsuki forms and Otsutsuki state and how they actually present, I think their karma seals has the ability to potentially change how they look, just like how Jigen's did. And of course, we understand that Jigen got his karma seal through a completely different means. But Jigen's karma seal looked entirely different. I don't necessarily think it's beyond the pale for, of course, Boruto and Kawaki's karma seals to eventually make some transformations and, of course, change how they look. Not only that, of course, the horn thing, I don't necessarily know what is going on with the horn thing. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I believe it's coming back, the horn state. Now, if you guys don't necessarily know what I'm talking about, this was essentially first debuted when Kawaki went berserk in Naruto's room. Not only that, we also seen Jigen with his karma seal, and of course, afterwards, we seen Kawaki utilize it multiple times in the first part of Boruto. However, in Boruto TVV, we have yet to actually see that form. And if it's pretty much retconned, I mean, I'd be shocked. I don't necessarily think that's the case. So I think we are going to actually get to see both Boruto and Kawaki in that horn state. And I think that's probably going to be like the true essence of the karma seal that we've been hearing about for so long. But in my personal opinion, I think that at this particular point, Otsutsuki stuff with Boruto and Kawaki, I'm not entirely sure how that's really going to affect them. And to be honest, chakra reserve is probably going to be one of the biggest things that I could potentially look for. Will the chakra reserve start to expand and mimic a more Otsutsuki-like chakra reserves? But I did tease a character that could potentially be stronger than both Boruto and Kawaki earlier on in the video, and it's going to be Himawari. I think that Himawari has the potential to be stronger than everyone in the series. One, of course, she's Naruto's youngest child, but of course, her ability to collab with Karma like instantly, and of course, their chakra affinity being this high, that just opens the door for the Boruto writers to do literally anything. they could make up literally anything, bro. In my personal opinion, like, this is just like the first power up that Himawari is likely going to get. And again, she's boxing with someone like Jura, and of course, she wasn't necessarily going to compete with Jura or anything like that, but this is the first battle. Imagine once Himawari potentially gets her chakra mode, how strong that could potentially be. Hypothetically, if she gets like a KCM mode and potentially stacks on another Sage mode on top of that, and not only that, potentially adds some scientific technology on top of that, and potentially even gets a karma seal from Boruto because he wants her to get stronger. Like, things like this I'm looking for future sight, and it could get absolutely nuts in my personal opinion. But I wouldn't necessarily rule it out for her to eventually become like another main character and carry the torch in the Naruto series. I remember years ago, Saruto was like a big thing in the Boruto community, and of course, hypothetically, like, Himawari could be the Saruto. Himawari could be the third generation main character that essentially carries the torch, hypothetically, if she does get that strong. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. It's been your boy Barbie, and we out.
It's a knife.